In a world of podcasts, one rises in the night to destroy them all. The elder god in an ocean of noise, the Cthulhu of the airwaves. This is Spoiler Country.
That's so creepy.
It really is.
All right, everybody, welcome again to another episode of Spoiler Country. Today on the show, it's kind of a big deal for me. Michele Wells is the creative director of Tapas. And let me start over.
Yeah.
She's the chief creative officer.
Chief creative officer.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay.
All right, everybody, welcome again to another episode of Spoiler Country. Today on the show, we have an awesome guest. She is the chief creative officer of Tapas. She has also worked for DC Comics. She's worked for Disney. She's worked for so many amazing companies, and specifically about books for young readers, which is kind of important for me. My wife's a teacher. I think that's cool. Yeah. So how you doing, Michele?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to have you. I've wanted to have you on here for a while, and I got some questions prepared for you and all that other fun stuff. But first, I just kind of want to know, have you gotten over the loss of your cappuccino maker, your Nespresso?
Yeah, thank you for respecting that. It has been a very hard time, but I've managed to move on.
I'm sure you were devastated, and it was an awful, awful time. Yeah, no coffee in the morning is awful, especially
on a Monday. It happened on a Monday morning. Yeah, it was so rough. But
I'm good for at least like a pot and a half during the day. I wake up at 4, so yeah, I need my coffee.
Not that I have an entire French press.
Oh my gosh! So How have you been making it through the pandemic? Like it's starting to, flowers are starting to bloom, things are starting to happen. You feeling a little bit better?
Yeah, I'm a very indoorsy person. I do a lot of this. So, in the beginning it was like, okay, cool, more time to read. But then I started to get a little bit of cabin fever, and luckily I'm in LA where there's great hiking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So now my new thing is listening to podcasts and audiobooks and hiking, and just trying to kind of listen to things and let the creative ideas percolate while I walk.
Awesome. Yeah. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I actually just got in from walking my dog through the woods, and I looked at my watch. I was like, oh crap, I got to be ready in like 4:30. So I ran to the house, took a quick shower, threw on my least wrinkled shirt, came down here looking like $1,000,000, obviously. And now I'm ready to talk to you.
All right.
So how did you get into the field that you're at? Because you initially worked in for a nonprofit, correct?
Well, so I started First Book Brooklyn, but that was kind of after I had been established in my career.
Oh, cool.
And that was a little bit further in, where I had the context to be able to kind of go to the amazing authors and artists and say, we want to support literacy here in Brooklyn. How can we do that? Who can we talk to? So that was a little bit further on. I actually began working in publishing when I was 19. I had double majored in writing and art for undergrad, and I took an editing test through a temp agency and ended up landing a job as a production editor at Prentice Hall, which at the time was part of Simon & Schuster.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I learned so much there. And then after that, I got a job at a children's publisher, and I was a nonfiction series editor there, but it was all illustrated publishing. And I think there are a lot of similarities in commissioning photography and illustration to support text, and learning how a comics artist tells a story visually. So even at that very beginning part of my career, I think I was learning a lot that eventually ended up helping me later on in life.
That's awesome. Had you had any experience with comics prior to going into that?
Yeah, my first experience with comics was not great. Yeah, I used to go to a really a big deal comic book shop in Manhattan, which shall remain nameless. No, but I used to go pretty frequently with my boyfriend at the time. And, he would be so happy browsing and buying stuff. And not only didn't I feel welcome there, but I felt actually like very unwelcome. Yeah, it was a different time. But the one time I got up the nerve to ask one of the employees for a recommendation, he was like, "You wouldn't like anything we have here." So a little bit
loser.
Like
oh my gosh.
I felt like it wasn't maybe for me. But I think the first graphic novel I read was Mouse, Art Spiegelman.
Okay.
And I know that very soon after that, I followed it up with Alison Bechdel's Fun Home and Persepolis, Marjane Satrapi. So I definitely went into that. I got really into that realm of like nonfiction storytelling through the medium of a graphic novel, which was really phenomenal. And I think that's like what actually ended up motivating me, because at the time, I was working as an editor at Penguin, which was just Penguin back then, not yet Penguin Random House.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about how those 3 books told really compelling true stories in a unique way that I had not seen myself, like prior to that. So I ended up going into our next editorial board meeting with this idea to take subjects kids were studying in school and present them in a graphic format. And the result of that was this U.S. history graphic novel written by Ken Hite with art by Shepard Hendricks. And knowing what I know now, that book was an absolute feat. And I have no idea how either of those guys pulled off what they did, because they produced that book on the exact same timeline as everything else in the line, which was all prose. And they created a graphic novel in the same time. Yeah. Wow. So I like at some point I need to find both of those guys and buy them a drink somewhere because I really I'm so impressed by what they ended up accomplishing. It was
maybe just like buy them like a few nights at a nice hotel and just like
there's something has to happen.
As an editor, that's one thing I never thought about is going from prose to graphic novels. You have to treat your creators under different criteria because the workload is much different. Was that ever was that something that you learned naturally, or was that something that you kind of had to deal with a few times before it kind of sunk in, like, oh crap, these guys are pulling all-nighters?
Yeah, they are. And they do. It's interesting because like the trajectory of my career has always been in some way like text with art, right? Whether it was like interactive or animation so in some way I was always kind of dancing around this marriage of this story in an illustrated format. So I think I learned a little bit over the years, and with each job, I learned a little bit more about that particular creative process. And I think that it eventually culminated at DC, where I was really able to see like these really phenomenal artists at the top of their game and what they were able to accomplish. And, wanting to make sure that I was respectful of that process and could create realistic situations to enable them to create in the best way possible.
Yeah. I can, oh my gosh, that's a feat in and of itself. Oh my gosh. So a lot of the stuff that you've done has kind of focused around young readers. And here lately, in the past few years, and I'm sure a lot of it has to do with work that you busted your tail to get into, it seems like they're starting to cater to those young readers a lot more. Obviously it's one of the more lucrative parts of like the comics publishing game, but also it's one of those things like if you capture that young reader, then eventually you will have an adult with expendable income. Right. What do you think that comics in general are doing a good job of capturing those young readers?
I think we're doing a better job today. So we have publishers such as First Second and Scholastic. I mean, they're doing so much for the medium. And across the board, we've seen so much more support from librarians and educators and parents who have really embraced comics and graphic novels, not only as tools for reading, for both struggling and advanced readers, right? But as ways for kids to improve visual literacy, it's so essential today when so much time is spent on screens. Like we've seen that in the past year alone, right? So visual literacy more than ever is incredibly important. And I think there's been a really distinct shift in understanding that not only can comics entertain and empower, but they can also provide advantages that reading prose doesn't. So, for example, through visual clues, readers can better decode text, which leads to vocabulary improvement and development of empathy, understanding of communities other than their own, and so on. And then, of course, comics are celebrated as works of storytelling art in and of themselves, right? And I think the value of that cannot be overstated. So yeah, I mean, I think more than ever, we're doing an amazing job as an industry, and something we can continue to do and do more of to really make a big impact is we can teach comics in the classroom and encourage students to write and produce them independently, because through reading comics, kids develop complex literacy skills that just serve them so much more everywhere else in their life.
Oh yeah, yeah, and there's the tactile function of reading comics. My wife is an educator; she teaches kindergarten, but I always try to, if I find some cheap kiddie comics, I can send them to her classroom, and they eat them up like crazy because it's something that they can kind of get, like they love the colors and stuff, but also it's one of their first reading experiences, and it's really cool seeing how well they take to that.
Absolutely. And it motivates them to continue to read more when they feel that sense of accomplishment from reading through the dialogue and sort of getting how that relates to the expressions on the characters' faces. Then they're motivated to read more. So it's hugely important.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm curious where you think that the industry is heading now. You seem to have a career that has kind of spanned the industry, the publishing industry. And it seems like you have some pretty good insight as to how to forecast things. Do you, like right now you're working for a digital platform, do you think that it's going to eventually just go completely digital?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. First, I want to say I think we're going to continue to go in the direction we see in the publishing industry as a whole, and that is leaning into own voices storytelling, which empowers creators to draw from their own lived experiences to tell unique and compelling stories. And then in the larger entertainment industry, I think we'll continue to see producers drawing from stories told through comics, because they basically act as proof of concept for whatever they're developing, whether it's animation or live action, long form, short form, what have you. In terms of Tapas specifically, we have more than 63,000 creators currently.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And on the platform, our audience is so active. They're so engaged. So we can immediately see how well a storyline resonates. And so we're absolutely primed for development of all different types of stories across all different types of media. In terms of, going digital, okay, so I was working for a publisher in 1998 that held an ebook summit. Okay, so this ebook summit invited editors from all over the country to opine and debate about the ebook problem, the concern that digital publishing, right? Like, oh yeah, digital publishing is going to cannibalize print publishing, and what should we do about it? So here we are all these years later. And I think it's safe to say that the demand for physical books remains the same. And at Tapas, we want to meet fans where they consume content. So that means we're serving up webcomics and web novels, but we're also bringing those stories to print books, the big and small screen, podcasts, and kind of everything in between. We just want to super serve really great stories, however our audiences want to consume them.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know you guys were actually going into physical media.
Yeah, we have a couple of deals that have been announced recently and some that will be announced very soon. But yeah, there's definitely a strong correlation between what we're trying to do and who we're trying to reach and how we're trying to reach them.
That's awesome. I have some questions from some folks in a comics group that I run, and I'm going to get to those in a little while, but I have a few more questions about Tapas. What have been the challenges for you going from like almost a purely physical media company to a company that does mostly online, starting to get into the physical stuff as well. But have there been any unique challenges?
Yeah, I think part of that was realizing that however intense I used to think my team's deadlines were, digital publishing is 10 times more intense. Oh my goodness.
How so?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we need to constantly be releasing content episodically with a hook that draws the reader back in. And, for several of our key titles, we're already working with physical publishers. And we have a deal that I know has been announced with Scholastic for a title called Magical Boy, which is phenomenal. It's a really great story. But, and those deadlines are kind of the ones that I'm looking at and I'm used to. But to be able to feed that and keep everyone coming back for more on the Tapas content is just that much more labor intensive, and really making sure that we're so far ahead of schedule that we don't have a delay in posting the episode. So it's been quite a learning experience.
It seems like there's a lot of immediate gratification that goes into digital publishing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so cool because we get to see that instantaneous feedback, and the authors and the artists can kind of look at that and take that into consideration and maybe subvert expectations or maybe lean into it a bit more. Or we have an author whose name is The Cow, he's phenomenal. And he was saying, like, he kept seeing everybody like, oh, this certain dress, I can't wait to see this dress. I can't wait to see this dress. And so like, he's like, when I'm creating that piece of art, I know it has to be spectacular because I can see the desire leading up to it, which is really cool to hear.
That's awesome. I'm sure he can really move some comments.
Oh, no.
That was awful.
No.
I'm a dad, so that's, dad
that
joke for the day.
Dad joke, yes.
So the majority of Tapas readership are women aged 18 to 24. The article I read, by the way, said females, and that sounds creepy as hell. I'm sorry. The majority are females. Yeah, sorry. It sounds like a Ferengi or something from Star Trek. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's a large female readership? And what can other publishers do better to cater to that audience?
I think women ages 18 to 24, like anyone else, want to see themselves represented in the stories they read. And Tapas provides the opportunity, the guidance, and the visibility to creators to be able to make the stories that are important to them, which will then resonate with a large audience. And then we work to get those stories out in front of an even larger audience. In the digital comic space as a whole, we have 80 million monthly active users globally.
Oh, wow.
So there's a huge community of passionate readers we're tapping into here. And on top of that, like, we have this amazing microtransaction model, which allows younger readers to have access to the stories they're passionate about in a really unique way. So if they don't want to purchase ink, which is our in-app currency, they can watch videos and still access the stories they're drawn to, which really democratizes reading in a way that is super important for that particular readership, and I think goes a long way toward allowing people to engage with our content in a way that feels right for them.
That's awesome. And as somebody who grew up definitely probably unable to purchase stuff like that online or anywhere else, I would read them off the rack real quick and hide.
I used to sit in the bookstore and look down. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And you don't want to get caught, but also you want to get the dang book. It's awesome that you're able to allow readers to do that and looking out for stuff like that. And I'm sure also it's good for getting the advertisement. You've worked for companies like WB, Disney, Penguin House. With all that experience, what are some things that creators could do better when it comes to building a career in comics?
I think we have so many tools on the social media side that allow people to really showcase what they're doing and what they're passionate about. And there are also a number of databases they can sign up with to get greater visibility into their portfolios, into the work they're doing. I think it really helps to have a workshop, a group of people you trust who are going to give you good, honest, and open critique to be able to improve your content. And of course, just publish as much as you can wherever you can. Getting readers to engage with your content is a great way to build yourself as a creator as well.
Oh, yeah. I just somebody asked me, are there plans in the works there, which you already kind of said. There are plans in the works there for adaptations into other media like webtoon, for example, the Tower of God becoming an anime.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for you guys doing like TV shows or anything like that in the future?
Yeah, I'm going to tread lightly because I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what's been announced.
I don't want Kim to jump through the screen at you.
But so Studio Tapas, which is our original IP studio, has begun co-development of a partner content slate. And we have a lot of really exciting projects in the works. Some of the ones that I'm pretty sure have been announced include Magical Boy. And this is by The Cow, who I mentioned earlier. And the partnership is with Scholastic. And this is a really, really fantastic story that features Max, who is a young man who has just come out as trans to his parents, but then learns from his mother that he's from a long line of magical girls charged with saving the world. And this has also been optioned by Madison Wells for TV and cross-platform development.
Oh, wow.
And then we also have the webcomic adaptation of CJ Entertainment's film A Werewolf Boy. And we have Yes, My Boss, which is really, this is so cute. It's a modern workplace romance for the gig economy. And it's about this aspiring webcomic artist, relatable, who has to deal with her horrible boss during the day, only to find out that her biggest fan and her new intern is actually that very same horrible boss.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's Frolic Media and Madison Wells are producing a scripted podcast, I believe, and developing the TV adaptation.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And Nemosign, which is an AI thriller created by Sansa, follows a young woman recovering from a horrible crash who struggles to regain her memory. But the more she remembers, the more she fears that her caretakers might be her captors. And on that one, we have partnered with Zoic Studios for TV and cross-platform adaptation. I think that's all I'm allowed to say right now.
That's awesome.
I didn't see anything pop up, so I might be okay.
If any of that is, yeah, let us know if we have to.
We'll have to swear you to secrecy. Yeah,
I love how jazzed you are about all these products. I can just kind of see in your demeanor, like, oh my gosh, I love this stuff. So, what has been the most welcome surprise to moving to Tapas?
Oh, wow. I think the ability we have to tell really important stories that resonate with our audience without constraints. I've spent so much of my career doing branded content, which I absolutely loved. I mean, there's nothing more fun than writing dialogue for a beloved character and, sitting in the recording session and hearing the voiceover actor do it and perform it in that way that you're like, wow, this sounds really right. But there's a different type of freedom in really being able to look to own voices creators and say, like, what is a story that's important to you? What represents where you come from? What do you want to share with this world? And be able to share that storytelling with a large audience. Like, I think that's been the most exciting thing for me.
That's awesome. And yeah, I actually hadn't thought about you going from like, IP that was strictly for like, big, huge, massive companies to create our own stuff. And I'm sure that brings a lot of challenges and also a lot of, fun, the joy of seeing creators starting to do for themselves and do right.
Absolutely. And the fact that we're empowering them to really get their stories out in front of a huge audience, not just on platform, but off platform as well. It's been incredibly exciting.
That's awesome. So I always like to ask before like the end of the show, I want to you were talking about a bad experience with the comic shop. I'm sure you've had some good experiences.
Yes. And am I allowed to shout one out?
Yes, that's what I want.
Okay.
Because we want to keep these places open.
Okay. Earth 2 in Sherman Oaks.
I've heard about that store.
They not only do they really know their stuff when it comes to YA and kids content, they're phenomenal at that, but really good people, super knowledgeable about the industry, really thoughtful, great recommendations, great layout. During COVID, good precautions.
Yeah,
It's not really safe to go there. I mean, I know that might not matter forever, but it did matter for me like over the past year.
Oh, yeah.
They're the best. They're the best.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
love them.
Well, Michele, thank you so much for coming on the show. If you ever want to come back on to promote anything, let us know. You guys don't need to download the app to visit the site, right?
That's correct. You can access a lot of our content just through the website itself. You do not need to download the app. And again, all in the service of democratizing that storytelling, making sure that if you want to read our content, you're going to find a way to read it, and we're going to make sure that you do.
Awesome. That's tapas.io, tapas.io. You guys, Michele Wells, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I've wanted to talk to you for a while, and it's always fun talking to somebody with experience like outside of the nerdosphere who actually, does, the stuff like in regards to helping with creators and actually making stuff happen. So thank you again for coming on. And by all means, if you ever want to come back on again, we'd love to have you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you again, Michele. Enjoy your summer. I hope you have many good hiking days. And yeah, hopefully all this crap gets over with soon.
Yeah, indeed.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Take care.
Spaghetti. And we're back.
That's right. We are back. Back in the saddle again. Well, I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that as much as we did making it for you. And if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, you got to go check out spoilerverse.com, because at spoilerverse.com, we have a plethora amazing directors and artists of all walks of life, and editors and writers, and oh my God, are you a lover of comic books like we are? Then there's so many amazing people from the comic book world over at spoilerverse.com, and I highly implore you to go there and check it out.
Yeah, and while you're there, you can check out all the other podcasts on our network, like Bridges and Geekdoms and Funny Book Forensics and Haphazard Adventures and Nerds from the Crypt and so many more.
Misery
We put out
Point
episodes
Radio.
all the time. Go check all of them out, and check out all of the reviews and previews and articles we have going up every single day for you, every day on spoilerverse.com for you to check out and to read and to love and to like and to comment. We have a store link. If you want to help support the site, you can do it two ways. One, go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/spoilercountry, or go to our store link in the middle of the site there and get a t-shirt, a face mask, a hoodie, something, look fly as hell, and help support the site when you do that, because we get $1 or $2. And maybe you want to talk to us. If you do, you can do it obviously on all the socials, but if you go to scpod.us/discord, you can join our public Discord server and come chat with us all day long.
I couldn't say it better myself, dude.
There you go.
You just mouthed out a ton of information at once, and really, I hope you guys enjoy what you're hearing, because we're working our butts off to bring it to you.
We are.
I guess there's only one left thing. Yeah, I'm gonna go with it. There's only one left thing left to do.
What's that?
In an oceans of podcasts,
We are Cthulhu.
as Cthulhu compels you to
Spaghetti. Open the mind.
and read more.
Spaghetti.
What's going on, everyone? Are you still looking for that perfect one-stop shop for all things pulp culture? You know, that one place where you can hear hot takes about superheroes, Star Wars, video games, and more? Well, fear not. Bridging to Geekdoms is the place for you. A podcast that focuses on the current rumors, scoops, and controversies within the pulp culture world. Hosted exclusively on the Spoilerverse Network, you can find us on any one of your favorite podcatching apps, YouTube, and at spoilerverse.com. So don't miss out on the excitement. Find us and subscribe now.